I am about to do a bunch of shading on these lily petals, which is one of my favorite flowers to do shading on. And I like using pan pastels for that. These are an artist pastels. They're good quality. They're $10 or less in the US, which I know is a little bit more expensive than like some other options. But I find the quality to be good. Plus, one other benefit I like about pan pastels is that you have like a whole circle of color that's a good amount to practice with, and I have found that when I practice with the same color I get a feel for how it will look on the felt, so I like that, and the quality is great as well. The other option would be an eyeshadow, and I don't think the different brands of eyeshadows really vary that much as far as felt goes, so I like to get just whatever I can find on sale and looks like colors I might use. This NYX palette I've had a long time. It does run out maybe a little bit faster just because there's less. Another thing is I found that some colors I don't use at all. Trying to think of some other like advantages and disadvantages to them. These are more like compact, you know, these are a little bit looser, and so that can be a little bit harder to get out and get the amount I want on my brush. So sometimes I can like load it up too much rather than load it up lightly, to whereas like with a pan pastel I can dab it on and kind of adjust how much is on my brush, you know, then like put it on here and have a little bit less, and I feel like I have less control over the eyeshadow than I do the pan pastels, because you kind of have to like rub your brush in there. I mean, you can dab it here, but it's just not as even of a coverage because you're going to like have to dab one side and it'll be darker there, and I feel like it's just an even coverage on this brush for using like a pan pastel, if that makes sense. Just kind of trying to talk through some things I like about it in case it's helpful, just to share information as you consider maybe what to buy or what skills to work on or what things to try as far as felt flowers go. This is a darker pink. You can just see like that real vibrant colors there, but I do love eyeshadow and I still use both for sure. So there's really, you know, the price of this is less, even though I do think if you spend a little bit more, depending on where you live and how much it costs, this is really just as cost effective if you feel like you're going to use the whole thing. If you're confident you're going to use the whole thing, I really don't think pan pastels are very expensive for what you get. Another thing I wanted to talk about that I've just kind of started realizing lately is that the type of brush and the way you apply it affects how the pan pastel or the powder, this applies for both, stays on the felt. These are just those makeup wedges. So this is another tool you can use. These are just simple eyeshadow brushes. This is like a makeup wedge. And when I am getting ready to apply pan pastels to felt, I don't do anything to prep it. So this is just felt that I've just cut recently. And I might look at a picture and decide where I want it, like where I want the darkest place to be. But really you don't have to do anything to your felt. So for these lilies, I'm going to use this color and do darker down the middle, and it's going to go lighter to the side. Something I've noticed is if I use a makeup brush and I don't like really apply it and get it to attach to the felt, like if I'll just do this as a test one. So if I'm just dabbing it on the side and it's loose like this, let me see, hopefully I can help you see it. And I don't take some time to like really get it to stick to the felt by either rubbing it or dabbing it. Sometimes I'll do this movement and I'll have maybe a little bit too much loaded on, and then there's a lot that just sits on top, and that will come off easily. Like if I blow it, it'll blow off. Okay, if I touch it after after it's kind of like really attached to the fibers, it doesn't come off nearly as much as if it's just sitting on the top. So there's definitely a difference in the way you apply it. So I would, one thing and this is just kind of as I'm practicing, I'm learning how to do this. I will get that first layer really on there either by this motion or by this motion, either dabbing or brushing, and just make sure that it's the depth or like the amount of color that I want on the petal is like this without the top layer coming off. So like if I were to have oh, I like that. You know, like if it's a little darker and I've just kind of slightly dabbed it on, I'm like, oh, that looks great. That's probably not going to stay even when I seal it because it's just not really attached. So you might need to do several thin layers rather than like get a heavy amount of pan pastels on your brush and then dab it and then see that, oh, that looks really good, but that's going to come off easily because it's not attached to the fibers. And this is just from experience. I don't really know necessarily artistically how accurate all of this is, but another thing is when we use this, I have found that these apply really well. Like you kind of get a different feel instead of the brush maybe leaving some fibers loose of the pan pastels. This makeup brush I feel like does the best job of getting that pan pastel or the eyeshadow to really attach to the felt. And then so you can see it's darker without as many layers. And when I blow on it or brush on it, like this is without having done anything yet, it stays on there really well. So I do think for ease of use, for longevity of getting this pan pastel or eyeshadow to stay on the felt without having to put a lot of extra like layers into it, that this makeup brush, for whatever reason, applies the pan pastels really well. The other thing, after this is applied and we like the way it looks, this is just a test, but you can use hairspray to seal it. This also stiffens it so you can go back with, you know, like a hair straightener or something, and this will give it the ability to mold to heat. This is probably just something I use the most, and there's a 5 times mega hold too that's even higher. This is just cheap hairspray that I buy at Walmart. And then the other option would be like this workable fixative, and it's made for pastels, and this works on felt. I usually, when I use this, I take my felt outside because this smells bad. So this has a really strong smell, but either of these options work for sealing. So after I do all of these petals, get the shading the way I want them to, I will either spray with this or I will use this outside, move them outside. Okay, and then just put them on like a tray, move them outside. What's underneath my petals right now is like a wax paper sheet. If I do get the pan pastel or eyeshadow on my like craft desk, I like to use just a baby wipe to clean it off. Or if I'm having a hard time getting it cleaned off, a magic eraser works well. So just a few things about using pan pastels. Let me show you the colors I have. I am learning, so I'm able to buy these at a local art shop near me. You can look on the Pan Pastel website to find out where they sell them. This is like I'm in a college town, and these are $6. It's called Wortman's at an art store on campus. So I have not used some of these colors a whole lot. I've found that the darker colors, even like this one, takes more practice just because once you put it on there, you can see it right away, and I've been practicing. I think that what I want to start working on is using these on like a center, even for like a crepe paper, so for more detail. It's like a brown shade. This is a new one I just got the other day. It's called... So the names are weird too. There's like permanent green tint. I would not name that permanent green tint, but I'm obviously not like super up on my artistic, you know, wording, but it's like a mint green. So I think one of the hard things about looking on Amazon is the names don't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So it's nice to be able to go to an art shop and find them. But this is magenta. That looks like magenta, right? This is probably the one I use the most. And this is a light pink. It wouldn't show up very well on this, but it shows up well on that white. Sometimes the lids, I've noticed, are a little bit hard to screw on. Okay, so that is permanent red tint. What's that? This is a green extra dark. I have not used this very much. It's like a hunter green. I need to find... The reason I got several greens thinking that that would look really cool to shade leaves with them. So I'm going to work on that. Oxide green. Looks like that. I haven't used that a whole lot yet either. This is a really pretty blue, ultramarine blue tint. I like this green a lot. I've used this green, and I think this looks good for flowers or leaves. It's a bright yellow green. This is a purple violet shade, and it's dark, so I just don't use the darker colors as much. I need to practice. I think that would work well, but just haven't necessarily practiced with that a lot. This color is pretty. I really have used this a lot. It's just orange, and it's good for sunflowers, or looks good with like a golden color felt. So I think that's all the pan pastels I have that I've invested in for right now. And I still need to practice with some of these. I wish they had more pinks. I don't feel like they necessarily have a huge variety of pinks. And then these eyeshadow palettes, I just got several of these at TJ Maxx, and I like them. This NYX, like they usually have them anywhere. I can in stores like at Target, they're closer to $10. I got these at TJ Maxx for like $5.99. So, yeah, I mean, these are great too. I really like eyeshadows also. Here, let me show you just kind of the difference. So like, if you don't have this magenta, there's a very similar magenta color, most likely, in a lot of these eyeshadow palettes. So let's kind of compare. And I might kind of mix those together. See, I feel like there's a ton on my brush right now, so I'm just gonna kind of bring that on here. Show you on the edge. That's with the brush. You can cut these makeup wedges in half lengthwise to make them skinnier. So, you know, as far as the application goes, I just don't necessarily feel like I get as smooth. It's a little bit more blotchy, and tends to be darker spots, which I can totally work with that. It's really not a problem. It's just a little bit more of going back and then filling that in. I think the pan pastels apply just a little bit more evenly, but like, look at that. I mean, you wouldn't really be able to tell, right, the difference between the eyeshadow and the pan pastels, I don't think. So with us working with wool blend felt, both of these are great options, and I really think the biggest advantage for me with these pan pastels is it's a larger size that I'm able to, I just feel like it's easier to stick my brush into that, and it lasts longer. And there's colors in a palette like this I may not use, or I may run out a little bit faster, but I also like the benefit of being able to mix some of these together, because I do that. I do find myself doing that, you know, like mixing colors, and that's the fun thing about an eyeshadow palette that you may not get with pan pastels, is being able to mix the colors. So I hope this is helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about pan pastels, and I'll be able to share what I'm learning as I go, or if you have any tips or advice, I'd love to hear from you on that as well. So thanks so much.